Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to take a look at the new Ink on 3 Atelier Inks. So here I have them all laid out and ready to be played with. The cardstock I have today, I'm going to try some watercolor cardstock, Bristol for ink blending. I have 80-pound Neenah for stamping, and I had some black because I wanted to see what they did with black. So I'm getting prepped here, getting ready. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp them out so that I can see what my first impression is of their first impression. So we're going to get going with that. Oh, here, wanted to show you real quick. Be careful when you're opening up your ink pad, or else you get your knuckles in it. So that's my PSA for today. I am stamping out each of the rainbow colors. So these Atelier inks from Ink on 3 is a artist grade ink. You can do a lot of things with this ink. And so I'm going to walk you through what I discovered on my journey with them. So it was a lot of fun. The first thing, again, I'm stamping them out with a solid image. I want to see how they stamp. I would say definitely they stamp well. I did get a little bit of blotching on some of it, but I wanted to see here with the brown, this is the only one I do 2 impressions right here, 2 stamps, and I did 3 on the black. So the black is more like a dark gray, like a charcoal. So it's not like a VersaFine Clair Nocturne. It's not like that. These do not feel pigmented, although they are concentrated in color. So right here you can see I'm going to go back with the red because I wanted to see, can I get it more red? The first impression was very pink. In fact, this red kind of threw me for a loop throughout this process because the only time I really could get red was when I was stamping with it. Other than that, it came out a very pink color, which is pretty as well. So here's the stamped images. Definitely stamped well. I think if you do it a second time, you're going to get a much better impression. So here I'm going to move on to some watercolor cardstock. I'm doing some very loose watercoloring on this piece of cardstock here. This is an Arteza 140-pound watercolor cardstock, and I am just going back and forth. I'm slightly dampening the paper before I put the color down so that I can get a nice little blend there between them. I am going in rainbow order. I am trying to keep this just as soft as I can for the first go round. What I liked about the inks when I was doing the watercoloring was you can build up color very nicely. It's not going to, shock you with the brightness of it. They blend really well when you're watercoloring in this way. I thought that the look of this just came out really nice. But again, you can see that pink color, or that red color, is actually very, very pink. So I heat set it and I went back to try to add a second layer. This way I could see how much I could get it built up. So I'm putting a piece of this Post-it label on the back just to hold my cardstock. It was getting a little bit warped. Went back and did the same exact technique, and I just sped this up a little bit faster. So really impressed with the look I got here. I really love how they blended. I thought this end result was just stunning. So that was a lot of fun to play with. I am putting them on my work surface, as you can see. When you watercolor images and things, you can actually dip your paintbrush into the ink pad if you like. I don't do that. I will show you how I color an image later on, but I actually just kept putting it on a surface like this. Okay, so let's move into some ink smooshing. I wanted to see how these colors laid on top of each other. So if they were layering, so if you know a lot about inks or have played with distress inks, the regular line of distress is a dye ink. The oxide is a pigment dye combo, kind of like a mashup. But the oxides layer on top of each other very well. So they kind of cover up what's underneath. They're more opaque. These and the regular distress line, I got more of a transparent layering. And so I really did like it though. I was able to see some colors. If you dry your panel in between, you're going to be able to see that layering a lot more. But I wanted to just keep going. So at this point, I didn't really know what I was expecting out of this panel here. But as you can see, these colors are absolutely stunning. Also, when I am putting down the ink and spraying it with water and then placing my cardstock on top of that, this ink is water reactive, beautifully water reactive. It does a great job. And so you're seeing some of those kind of watery look splatters on my cardstock. And that's because the ink is just reacting to the water. And so I heat set it. And again, I'm going back for more, but I 100% loved how this ink smushed panel came out. I thought it was so fun and beautiful. And so that was impressive. I like that a lot. Okay, let's move on to ink blending. So here I have one of my blending brushes, and I am going to, this is Bristol Smooth Cardstock. I wanted to see how it did on one of the best cardstocks to ink blend. And as you can see, I'm getting a beautiful soft look here. I am going to go in rainbow order, and I'm going to in fact, you know what? I'm not going to pull in the orange or the green, I think, on this panel. I wanted to see if the red and yellow mixed into orange and if the blue and yellow mixed into green. I didn't want to add those extra colors. So this is giving me another way to see if these inks are going to work for blending with one another. And as you can see, they really are. They're blending really nicely. I wanted to go back in, I believe I go back in, yeah, more of the red. Again, trying to build up that red into a dark red color. I could not do it other than stamping. So I found that very interesting. So I get that done. I think that's a really, really pretty blend. And then I'm going to spritz it with water, and you will be able to see here how reactive these are. I did pull in some Shimmer spritz just to give it a little extra oomph. And then I'm going to pick it up with my paper towel. So I have a clean paper towel that I'm just going to push down and pick up, and look at those splatters. I wanted to keep that paper towel for a card panel. So I am loving it. So, so pretty. Very pretty. Okay, pulled in some black cardstock here just to see where they opaque, because distress oxides can show up on black. These will not. They are just transparent, more dye ink than anything. So black cardstock didn't work, but it was definitely worth a try. I wanted to kind of see. I kind of knew that, but you know, you got to experiment in the craft room. Now I'm going to show you the next thing that they do, and that is stamp. So they stamp very well. I was really happy with that. I got really good impressions. I kept building up the color because I wanted to see if it will get rid of that blotchiness. There really was not a lot of blotchiness. I'm splitting hairs here, folks, because I'm doing a review, so I want to make sure I look at it with a really close eye. But yeah, they stamp really well. They will stay a little bit wet, which I found also cool, because with a lot of dye inks, they dry right away. And again, I am saying, I don't know if these are 100% dye. I'm going to guess not. But the properties of this and the way that the ink is made, there's just so much you can do with this ink. So now I'm just going to put on this panel. I thought this was going to be a really cool and fun holiday card, but I smudged the purple like crazy. So I went back over it and just decided to see what happens when you do that with my finger. And it does smudge, so you need to be careful with it or heat set it. We'll come back to that in a second, but for this right here, I wanted to see if I could use the black ink for alcohol marker coloring. So that's the next test that we're going to do. And the information that you get on the inks when you get them is that they are good with alcohol markers if you heat set them. And so this first one I did not heat set, and I wanted to show you that yes, the black will bleed into it if you don't heat set them. So then I'm going to go back and onto the other side, and I'm going to heat set first and make sure, and I did that for longer than I'm showing you here. I did it for probably about 30 seconds to a minute, I would say, just kind of getting that nice and dried ink, because I wanted to see. And then I went over with just the light pink to see if I'm getting any bleeding, and nope, it worked out really nicely. So there I'm showing you the differences. So there we go. So yeah, if you heat set it, it can be used for your alcohol markers. I would definitely make sure it is dry though. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can heat emboss with this ink. So I noticed before with my smudgy action that it was staying wet a little bit longer. So I decided to test out some embossing properties. And so once I stamped it out and I got that really rich red color, because I did it multiple times, and then I'm going to heat set that. So I did this process of the stamping and embossing powder 3 different times. And so I wanted to show you, you can do that and get a nice big puffy look of your embossing. Yes, it worked. The best way for me still to this day will always be Versamark ink and embossing powder, but I will tell you, this is a very close second, particularly if you're going to emboss it multiple times. You're going to get that really nice embossed look. So I have now, I don't need red embossing powder. I'm using the red ink with clear embossing powder. Very, very happy about that. So I wanted to do a little bit of a technique here, and I brought some of that green in, and that green is such a beautiful bright color. Don't forget, you could mix your colors to get more colors. So that's really fun to play with. And these are all you have all your primary colors, and then you have some additional ones, so you can get a myriad of colors when you're mixing. I am going to try that water technique again by putting some shimmer spritz here, and I'm going to pick up clean side of my paper towel. I don't want to transfer any of that rainbow color. And there you can see I'm going to get a very pretty water reactive. So heat embossing, it's a go. All right, let's move on to using them as watercolors. So these Atelier inks are supposed to be really good for watercoloring. Now, I rarely color images in watercolor. I'm either alcohol marker or I'm using real brush pens to color images. I rarely do this technique. So given that information, know that it's something that I'm still working on and still trying to figure out, how to do some techniques and show my shading and things like that. So I have to tell you, I don't know that I'm the best judge for these as the quality of a watercolor. That's just honest. However, as a lot of us are trying to start out with this process, if you're just starting out with your watercoloring like I am, then this will be a good review to see if these work. Okay, so these inks were able to ink blend, ink smush, emboss, stamp, watercolor, I think that water reactive. So, they do pretty much all the things. So if you are looking for, I need a set of inks, where do I start? Highly recommend this. I feel like I like the fact that there aren't too many color choices at this point, because you can kind of just get the set and move, get the set and move towards your practice. But highly recommend that. If you have other inks, I think other inks do what these do. So I'm not suggesting that you stop what you're doing and go get these inks if you have. Oxides and regular inks, and I've, Catherine Puller and all kinds of inks out there that do great things. But this is a great set, again, if you are looking to kind of wrap it all up into one and you're just getting started and you need a full set. Highly, highly recommend these inks. I was very impressed. Just one technique after the next. I kept trying all these things and they just kept working. So I feel like I tried everything with the inks, but it's probably inevitable that I forgot something. So if you want to comment below and ask me about a certain property for these inks, I'm more than happy to go over to my craft desk and try it out for you. And then I'll let you know. But there are a couple other reviews out there on these. So like anything, before you spend your hard-earned money, do your research, see if it's something that you'd be interested in. It's another new thing on the market, and sometimes that can get a little overwhelming. So just make sure you're taking a look if it's right for you. There, I wanted to show you, I mixed a little bit of that pink and purple, and I got this really, really pretty rich color. And so I skipped a little bit of the coloring in here, but again, I was really just playing with these inks. I wasn't really putting too much heart into figuring things out, just kind of seeing and experimenting. And that's just the most fun part of it all. So, so I'm working on my watercoloring there. I know it's not perfect, but rarely is anything in crafting perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to pull in my panels here to kind of show you again what I was able to get. Just so much fun. Definitely great job, Ink on 3. Beautiful inks. Had a lot of fun with these. So let me know if you have any questions about this. Comment below and we'll chat down there. Here's some videos that you can find some other information. Also check out my playlists of reviews and informative playlist, so this way you can kind of see what else I'm working on. And until next time, I hope you all have a fabulous week. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.